Hi guys, today I decided to record a video about my life. Many people kept on asking me about who am I, what do I do for a living, and they just want to know about my past. So today I decided to record the video about my past experience, about my travel history and some other stuff. So if you're interested, continue watching. So let's start from prehistory. At the age of 15, I wanted to be an interpreter, and I just decided that's it, I'm gonna learn English no matter what. It was quite difficult because my parents didn't have money at that time to educate me in English school, so I was basically learning only words. I was learning, and then at some point I was like, will I learn English one day and will I be able to speak fluently? You know what I used to do? I just used to take a book, learn some new words. How? Just I see some word which I don't know, I just write it down and then I check it in the dictionary. And you know, like we used to have those huge dictionaries. I remember I was gifted one dictionary which had approximately 400,000 words, and I was like I was like scrolling all the pages and I was like, oh my god, I will never ever be able to speak fluently. But you know, I just was so persistent, and I knew that one day God will reward me and He will give me an opportunity to have practice. And I was studying in biblical school. We had some foreigners and we didn't have translators, interpreters, and they asked me to translate. They said like, you're the only one who can translate at least something. And then the other day they saw the potential in me, so they said like, no, we don't want an interpreter who would help us to translate what we are saying, whatever we are writing. So I started to interpret everything there in the biblical school, and then I saw one of my friends who was a translator and interpreter, and he told me, you know, in your city we have a job opening and you can go and work there as interpreter. Would you like to? I said, yeah, of course, it's just my dream. And he said like, but the payment is quite low, but still it can be a good practice for you. So I was like, listen, I'm even ready to do it for free. I was 17 at that time. From the age of 17 till 20, I was working as an interpreter, so I had lots of practice. I didn't know any grammar rules at that time. I just knew some basic words, basic grammar rules, and then I just was like practicing, and after that I was fluent in English, but I didn't know why, for example, we have to use present continuous or present perfect continuous. I was like, So then I started to make some money and I started to take courses, and I hired a teacher, so they were explaining to me absolutely everything. After that I became like really fluent in English. I knew all the rules because I remember those days I was studying in university, I was working, and at night I was writing those books and all the home tasks and homework. And because I believed that if I'm gonna be persistent, I would definitely succeed. So I remember those books, you know, like those Longman books where you just write everything in the book. And my parents still have those books where I was writing and writing. So, you know, like I used to take a pen and I used to write in that book with the blue pen, and then I was taking red pen and I was checking the answers in the book, and I was like crossing out what I wrote wrong, and I was trying to analyze why I have to write this and why I have to write this, or maybe I shouldn't write this. So I became fluent in English and I started to teach, and I was teaching for 4 years. Yes, And now when my students ask me, how is that possible to memorize all those words? And I was like, yeah, it's possible. It's just like you have to repeat them 1 million times. At the age of 24, I decided I want to live in Dubai. And I just, like packed my suitcases, and I just went to Dubai. I got touristic visa, and I was looking for work. I started to work in retail. I was working in Massimo Dutti shop. It's a Spanish brand. So I knew that it's temporary, because I decided, okay, I'm gonna take this job because I knew my potential, and I knew that I can release this potential in some other company. So I was working in that company, and I was trying to get to know the country, get to know people. It was very hard, and mentally I can tell you that it took me approximately 6 months or maybe 8 months just to understand that yes, I can fit here. It was very hard mentally when you're very far from your family, from the streets, which the shops, the food, and like in Dubai, all the streets, they're just like that, not like here in the USA, like street here and then street here. In Dubai, it's not like that. Sometimes you just walk on one street, and then you just like logically you think that, yeah, then I can just turn on the left, but then you just like, you see that there is no more buildings, just like complete concrete wall, and you're just like, what? How is that possible? So I remember that moment when I was trying to get home, and I was like getting lost. It took me really long time to understand the streets there. After 2 years, I switched and I started to work in events. Oh, the job was really interesting, and I made lots of good connections, and you always in some different fields. Like today you're at sport event, tomorrow you're at exhibition, and the other day you would end up at wedding or a birthday party. It was like completely different world. But of course there were some other complications, like you don't have a proper schedule. Sometimes you work 3 weeks for 12 hours, or sometimes even 12 hours during Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and no, Thursday you work 14 hours. So Thursday, Friday and Saturday you work 14 hours. So those complications, they were a little bit tough. But I really loved my job, and it was really well-paid job. I was there for 3-4 years, and after that I just decided that I want to take some rest, and I flew back to Ukraine, and I was not working for 1 year or 1 year and a half, and I was like resting my ass. Basically. But I knew that I want to work in film and photo production, so I was taking lots of courses. I was trying to shoot some videos. You still can see my old videos if you just scroll down on my YouTube. Those videos are still there, and I'm not ashamed of that, because when I look at those videos, yes, of course, like, and now I see lots of mistakes because I'm in video production right now, but at that time I was like, okay, everything by trials and attempts. And I've learned. I literally have learned everything by trials and attempts. I was trying to find some video production school in my city, but we don't have. So it was a little bit challenging. But when I flew to the USA, I flew to New York, and I knew what I wanted. But when I flew to New York, it took me a really long time to adjust to everything there, because I had cultural shock, and to that extent that I wanted to go back to Dubai, and I was there for 3 months, and I was like literally dying, and I was getting depressed, and I was like, I cannot live in this city. That you would understand, you would spend a certain amount of money in New York and the same amount of money in Dubai, but there you would feel yourself okay, but in New York you would feel yourself as a poor person. For example, like $3,000-4,000, you would feel yourself like a poor person in New York, but in Dubai you still will feel okay, because you would live in a beautiful building where everything is clean, and you have sauna, you have steam bath, you have gym, you have absolutely everything, and you have a doorman, and all the supermarkets would deliver food to your place, and laundry as well. I never ever washed my work suit. I just was calling laundry and I'm like, hey guys, can you just pick up my suit and clean it? And they would clean it for $3, 10 dirhams or 15 dirhams. No, 15 dirhams, which is like $4. And dresses, 5 dirhams, which is $1.50. Imagine, dry clean dress, $1.50. But when I have heard the prices in New York for dry clean, I'm like, oops, it's not cheap. So then you start to understand that you also have to cook, and you have to clean, and you have to do everything by yourself, because all of that is quite expensive in New York. The only thing which is expensive in Dubai and in New York is accommodation. So I flew to New York, and there I was trying to make some connections in photo and video production. It was easy because it's everywhere there, but I didn't like the city, and I was like, career or me getting depressed. And then a friend of mine who lives here in Chicago, she called me. I love her so much. She called me and she told me, she's like, don't rush, don't fly back to Dubai. She's like, fly to Chicago. If you like Chicago, I'll help you to settle down. I'm really thankful that she convinced me to come here, and as just I landed here, I said, that's it. This is the place where I want to be. This is the place where I want to live.